Hey everyone, we are back again at the Brand Innovators Sports Marketing Upfront and Summit, live from Scottsdale, Arizona. I am David Teicher, Chief Content Officer, and I'm backstage with the wonderful Lindsey Lee from the OIKOS team at Danone. Thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here. Thanks, David.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you just finished your main stage fireside chat, and would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of dive into a few follow-up questions.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to be here. It was a great chat, so thanks for including our Danone family. I currently lead the OIKOS brand team, and previously was at Diageo for some time. I've been on yogurt now for 3 years, and really happy to be activating actually my first Super Bowl here with OIKOS. So very fun.
I love it. We love having you here. As a personal note, I would say I'm not usually the biggest yogurt fan, but bringing Dak Prescott to the table, if there's anybody that's going to get me to eat yogurt, it's Dak.
Yeah,
so
that's
I love
right.
it. So let's just dive right in though. Every event that we go to, especially these bigger industry gatherings, there's always kind of these buzzwords that bubble up behind the scenes. We were just in Vegas in CES a few weeks ago, or a month ago now, and it was all about the metaverse. It was all about Web3. It was all about AI. Here this week, everything's about cultural relevance. I'd love to know what that means. What does cultural relevancy mean to you as a marketer? And at the end of the day, is it important to be culturally relevant to do what you do, to sell your products? Do you need to be culturally relevant to sell yogurt?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we just talked a little bit on the main stage about how yogurt is a category that is oftentimes not thought of as cool. Quite frankly, it's thought of as boring. We have research that tells us this, but we also see consumers leaving the category for trendier, cooler brands. OIKOS is a mainstream brand. It's been around for some time. Yogurt's a category that maybe isn't the jazziest, right? So for us, our job to be done and our mission is to make yogurt as a category culturally relevant and quite frankly cool. So we're leveraging these cultural moments to help challenge those healthy eating perceptions around the fact that, yogurt's boring. So that's why it's so important for us, and I think our brand on OIKOS is uniquely positioned to be able to show up in culturally relevant ways because we've kind of challenged those category codes and norms in the past. We're a brand that showed up with black packaging and a sea of white, right? We've had Dak Prescott as our spokesperson. We're now leveraging the Sanders family. So we're showing up in fun and unique ways in order to get people to think about our brand a little bit differently. And I think that cultural relevance does come through the line as we think about, that mental availability, that awareness driving. Being able to reach those consumers to drive that awareness, mental availability, so that when they go into the store and they're shopping yogurt during these culturally relevant occasions, right, consumption moments are important too. They're thinking of OIKOS, right? So for us, that's why it's super important.
I love that. And you mentioned, right, these cultural moments and consumption moments. So I want to build on that for a second, because when we talk about whether it's the Super Bowl or any other sports event, right, these are events. They're one day or sometimes a few days within the span of a 365 day year. So what role does sports play for you within like the broader year-long strategy?
Yeah, great question. You're right, it's one day. I feel like there's a ton of build-up. We're like, Super Bowl Sunday's here, let's go. And in the past, 4 years ago, our first time executing, that's how we showed up. We had a 30-second ad, we had a bunch of influencers, got some good press, and it was, it had some post Super Bowl sales lift for us, so it was successful. But we've come a long way in the past few years, and what we're doing now, seeing the success of it, is we're using the Super Bowl moment and really surrounding it. So before the game, during, but then sustaining the momentum. So we're using it as truly a kickoff point to our entire campaign throughout the year. So it's not like on OIKOS we're running 3 different campaigns, like we're, as we talked about, acting like a big brand at the Super Bowl with not necessarily those big brand budgets. So we don't have the luxury of having 3 campaigns. So this is our true moment to kick off our Stronger Makes Everything Better campaign throughout the entire year. So it works well for us. It's a playbook that we're continuing to build on year, and showing up in more differentiated ways year on year.
Well, that's great, right? It's your biggest investment, so you want to maximize, right, and give it legs. So I love that. So to build on that, this kind of goes into, I wouldn't say controversial territory, but it becomes heated conversations these days in the ad industry sometimes when you talk about brand versus performance. And that idea of the the long term, right? The equity, the awareness, the brand building, and the loyalty, which is right that longer term process versus shorter term driving sales performance. Can you show X led directly to Y, right? Sports and the Super Bowl in particular are thought of as maybe traditionally awareness plays and brand plays and equity plays, the Super Bowl being maybe the biggest of all possible, right? But with increasing pressures or conversations around performance, do you think differently today around how you determine if this was an effective use of your resources?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great point. It kind of goes back to how we're activating Super Bowl this year. Instead of it just being an awareness play to drive equity and earned value, we're actually using it as a moment to activate with our retailers, because we know that that moment of conversion in stores during the Super Bowl is critically important. So by pulling up our planning cycle, a year in advance, that alone has allowed us to actually plan at a national retailer level, much more so than we have in the past. So we talk a lot about like the screen to shelf execution. It's really important to build that equity and that brand love, especially since we're going against some competition as it pertains to the yogurt category. That's going to be really important for our brand. We can talk as much as we want ourselves about how strength is important and our yogurt stands for strength, but we need to make sure that message is resonating with consumers. And then two, bringing that through the line. So, that strength equity, making sure at the same moment that we're triggering on this screen in front of consumers at home, they can go into stores the next day. And we might be on promotion. We might have a QR code activation, which we're running this year for some sweepstakes and giveaways that all ties as part of the overall campaign. So it's kind of, not a fair answer. I'd say like we need to be doing both. And that's how we're planning to activate this.
It always is a balance, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to steal that line around screen to shelf. I like that. I don't know if I've heard that before, but we've got a whole big retail and commerce series, and maybe we'll add something around screen to shelf, right? You got to connect those dots.
It's a Danone buzzword for there.
Okay,
for you right
I
there.
love it. But it is. It's about connecting the dots. It's a good way to put it. So, last question around this kind of the world of sports marketing, right? That this category, this discipline has changed a lot over the last few years. Yeah. Some of it is technologically driven and just driven by the media landscape and, maybe younger consumers or consumers just with different viewing habits, streaming or, time shifted. But also the pandemic obviously changed a lot of how we think about watching sports or engaging with sports. How has your world as, somebody invested in sports marketing, how has it changed for you?
Yeah, it's changed tremendously. I think to me, the biggest change is the way we approach our media buying and the way we're reaching consumers as we think about how we're activating a sports pillar. So, for example, instead of doing a national television ad, we're actually buying digital first through the Fox Sports digital app. So showing up in Super Bowl through a digital first approach and surrounding that with a lot of other media approaches. For example, the day after the Super Bowl, you'll see our ad airing on every single morning show. So we get the national coverage that way. In addition to that, TikTok's a big part of our plan this year. It hasn't been in the past, so we know consumers are there. So the way we're reaching consumers around these sports moments has changed. We also know that consumers, the way they're consuming media is much more fragmented, right, in this new world, and it's continuing to evolve. So you'll see both not only our content be part of a full ecosystem, right? We have our 30-second ad, but we have a whole ecosystem of assets, both that are brand-led, but also custom content. So in partnership with our media partner, they're building content on our behalf. Oh, cool. So to me, it's like critically important to reach consumers through this sports angle, through many different disciplines and touch points instead of one hero 30-second ad.
I love that. Yeah, it seems like you've got a very comprehensive, like multi-channel and multi-generational approach too. If you're thinking everything from the morning shows to TikTok, you're going to reach a lot of different.
Totally, exactly.
That's fantastic. All right, well, last question. So you're going to take the Magic football.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just decided it's Magic. It's Magic football. And Chiefs or Eagles, who do you have?
I'm going to go Chiefs.
All right.
Chiefs, yeah.
I think we're 3-3. Or is it
Wow,
3-2? 3-2 Eagles. 3-2 Eagles.
Okay,
yeah. I've been keeping tabs today. So.
All right. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.